Post-game show, Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Let's go. Let's do it.
Woo!
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we're doing it.
You
If
guys
you're
are
a
killing
Brooklyn
me.
fan,
Jeez.
if you're a Brooklyn fan, it's a good Christmas.
What do you guys bummed out or something?
Dude, John is completely ready for Christmas today. Look at that getup,
Yeah.
dude. You know
We're doing it. We're jumping in here.
who didn't do it? The Celtics.
Decent for 3 quarters. That was about it. First 3 quarters.
First half overall strong. You had to be impressed with the defense tonight, first half. But as you see in your rotations against this Brooklyn team, I don't think any team in the NBA can keep up. I mean, they don't even use Timothy Luau, Jeffrey, some of the deeper guys on their bench. Kuruks, who was playing in garbage time. Those guys would be first bench guys off another team's bench. And you saw in that third quarter especially, they try to keep Jason Tatum out there with Peyton Pritchard, Semi Ojeleye, some of these bench guys who, did okay tonight, but you can't keep up with Jared Allen. Karis LeVert, I thought, was sensational tonight. And then when you start rotating back in Kyrie and Durant at their best as they were tonight, no one in. I just think this team's head and shoulders above anyone else in the league.
Yeah, let's call this what it is, okay? End of the day, this was really good team against a pretty good team.
Agreed.
And that's it.
But, John, with that being said, I was a little surprised that we didn't see this blowout happen way sooner. To the Celtics' credit, they stayed in it because of the defense. And I think that was a big addition, especially when you needed those stops. The second unit, Pritchard, man, those stops went a long way. That's
fine, but
momentum shift, John. But listen, offensively, though, the Celtics need to figure this thing out because 8 quarters, Jason Tatum's first 8 quarters of the season, he hasn't seen the free throw line. What's going on there?
That's a huge
What's going on there, guys? How does Semi Ojeleye have more free throws than
not aggressive? He's not playing aggressive. We texted at the beginning of the game. This is driving me crazy. What does Jason Tatum even start for? He doesn't. They don't run anything through him. He goes through the first 6-minute rotation every time without any points. Okay, and then he goes to the bench. They're only down 4. Tatum hadn't scored in the first quarter. It's unbelievable. This happens a ton.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And there was no way you're going to beat the Brooklyn Nets without getting Tatum to the free throw line. I mean, that should be a must. That should be a given. What is it, guys? I mean, maybe we could figure this thing out in the next 10 minutes or so. Why isn't Tatum? I mean, okay, you say he's not aggressive enough, but there were a couple of instances where he got to the hoop, he got to the rim. I would say maybe I saw 2 no calls. I'll give him that. But that's it. I saw 2 no calls. It wasn't like he was getting slapped around and the refs were refusing to give it to him.
Yeah, it's I mean, we got to get into this in a minute because this is gonna be a problem. But apparently, the Tice seal is illegal, which means those are like.
I was gonna bring that up.
That's like 10 points a game here for Tatum. I want to get into that because honestly, that was like the biggest development. If that Tice seal is gone. That's I tweeted this, but that's half his value, and that's a ton of easy buckets for Tatum. They rely on that. They teach it. They coach it.
Can you explain that rule, John? Because I don't understand it.
Both him and Thompson got called for it. Okay, they called it a moving screen, right? They called it an illegal screen.
I feel like that's what it is, as the letter of the law goes. I always thought you can't box someone out while a screen's.
But it's not though, because you're technically in offensive position.
Yeah.
You could theoretically. It's no different than posting up. You're getting position on a guy. Mm-hmm. If you give Tice the ball there, that's okay. So they just call it because it looks like a screen because the guy is flying by. But at the end of the day, Tice could absolutely seal off his man rolling to the basket, keep him away from him, and catch a pass. So
that's tough for Tatum.
It's a ridiculous call. It's not moving. It's gaining position. Okay.
Plus, he's not facing him either. It's his back to the.
It's not facing him. It's creating position. Like I said, you could easily dump that off to Tyson. He gets a layup. That's good. That's good basketball. You've gained position on your guy. But somebody clearly, that to me screams of. Somebody whispered to the refs beforehand, hey, watch this. They do it a lot because they called it on Thompson and then they called it on Tyson. That's why Brad lost his mind and basically fought that tech. He worked for it. He's like, nope, and he just yelled the whole time. That was just a really surprising just call. I think I have it. You guys want to watch it?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put it up on the screen here.
Tyson or Thompson?
Okay, here it is. I'm going to put it up. Okay, so here we go.
Ice one was the worst one.
Pretty
And
brutal.
his feet are planted. It's not like he's rumming,
Yeah,
issue.
that
It's
one.
like I even searched on Twitter Tice Seal because I wanted to look at like just past videos of it, and sure enough, like if you just scroll through Twitter and click on video, like you'll just see a bunch of those, and like he's being they're being commended in the tweets for like the play. So it's like, okay, now all of a sudden that's illegal without any heads up to the Celtics or Brad Stevens, like, hey, we're going to be calling this a lot more this year, or this is illegal the way you guys do it. This is the way you should be doing it. Like that, I can imagine why Brad Stevens was so pissed off at that, because all of a sudden it's an issue. Like it's never been an issue before. And like John said, well, that's half of Tice's value right there. If you're gonna all of a sudden just that's against the rules, well, I mean that's a huge that changes everything on the way that they do things. So
And
I
Kyrie,
mean that's
of
gonna be
all
a problem.
people, knows exactly how big that is because he used to help him out a bit.
Yeah,
those
maybe
sort
it
of
was
skills,
him.
That was both of those were on Tatum drives, which is a
Yeah.
killer right there.
The Nets are
Well,
smart.
no, I mean because he used to play. He knows the Celtics.
Yeah. But that could easily be Kyrie being like, "Hey, the bigs get away with this stuff." Like I don't know, but that to
That's
me
what I'm getting
smacks
at.
of somebody. That's a classic.
So someone
Keep an eye out for this because they called it twice early, which you'd never see.
we assume someone did that on the other side. And if that's the case, it's just another example. This Nets team was pigeonholed, maybe rightfully so, for Kyrie, Durant's injury concerns, the coach. Well, it seems like all three of those have gone the other way with that group in a way that I'm not the biggest Nets fan in the world. I don't love those two players, but I've just been pushing them so hard because I feel like the perception against them has gone so far the other way into this year, where they were ranked 7th seed by some, and still, like someone in the East is going to have to prove to me that they can touch this team. I don't think Philly can do it. I don't think Miami can do it the way it looks right now. Durant has to stay stable all year. It's a tight, condensed schedule, so that could be the one thing that works against them. But if you're a Celtics fan coming out of this one, you're like, I see people in the comments trade for Harden. Oh, we got to pull the plug.
Forget that.
You're not in a better place than any other. Or, I mean, you're not in a worse place than any other East team.
It's not. It's just, and I actually do think Miami absolutely can compete. I'm looking at that team now, and especially, watching Duncan Robinson, you're looking at another year of development from Hero, another year of development from Adebayo. I think they've got 3-4 guys on the way up in addition to already that kind of core around Butler and Dragic. You know what you're going to get out of him. I mean, I look at that team and I'm like, I want that guy. I want that guy. I want that guy. I want that guy. They're loaded with them. And then you got Precious. Oh, Precious. We were talking about Precious during the draft, so it is what it is there. And I think that team is good, but this was the Celtics we talked about that drop, okay, before the season. And again, this isn't, after Milwaukee, they thought they were great. And then after Brooklyn, we're going to bury them. It just does feel that they are in that second tier. And certainly will live there for a while until Kemba gets back. And then if Kemba comes back and he's the guy again, then it's fine. Things start to fall into place. You have a third person who can score. But holy wow, that's a really challenged lineup when Tatum and Brown are not both on the floor at the same time. That's really hard to get buckets for this team.
Well, even Doris Burke pretty much said that. She was like, well, when, Tatum or Brown's out, it's like they're looking at Teague to be the guy who is going to sort of pick up the slack a little bit on
That's
offense.
true, Jimmy. How'd Teague do today, man? He had a good game, right?
Teague had a tough one today, but that's the problem with the Celtics team is like, okay, the stars came out to play today in Brooklyn, and that's great. And that they kind of made up for. Listen, the Nets have way more depth than the Celtics do, but you didn't really see a ton of that today. But when Kyrie and KD were out to start the fourth, you saw that depth come into play in that early fourth quarter for the Nets. They extended the lead on the Celtics in that fourth quarter, kind of put it out of range. And when you're the Celtics and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown aren't combining for 60, there wasn't anybody else today, really. I mean, Marcus Smart had a couple, but there wasn't anybody else today that really stepped up. And like that's unfortunately, I think, going to be the theme until Kemba Walker comes back. These guys just aren't deep enough past Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to compete with the team. I mean, the Nets are an extreme example because they might be the best team in the East. But you can talk about the Heat. I mean, we're going to find out how they compare with the Pacers here. Some of the better teams, are they deep enough on the offensive end to go, basket for basket? I don't know. I mean,
I think better question that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. I was about to ramble, so I'm glad you cut me off.
I was gonna say, I think the better question to ask is, do the Celtics have the weapons to become a better offensive team? Without Kemba. Okay, let's just forget about Kemba for a second. Right? Remember when the season started?
No.
I said the Celtics need to go into the season and just go into it without like thinking about Kemba's comeback, because it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take longer than I think any of us really realize at this point. But the offensive weapons that the Celtics have, whether we're talking about Jeff Teague, who of course showed you that he's not going to be able to put up 19 every single night. It looked great in the home opener, but we don't know what's going to happen moving forward. I do think he'll be a consistent scorer, but of course today that wasn't happening. But to the Celtics' credit, though, the defense, that second unit kept them in it, and that game could have gotten away from him. The biggest reason why was Karis LeVert. Now, when Karis LeVert gets hot and he gets caught in a switch, Grant Williams gets caught in a switch and he's guarding LeVert at the top of the key, you have issues. That's a problem. And I think someone like Grant Williams, Brad Stevens has to find a way to make him more productive on offense, because they're going to need all of those points.
Wait, how do you make him more productive on offense? It's like saying, can you make him taller? Like, I mean,
no, exactly, but
you are who you are.
Yeah, but John,
they are who they are.
It's about setting him up, not just having him as a second option in the corner to pop a three when the play breaks down. That's what he does out there offensively. What else is he doing besides setting screens and trying to get putbacks?
So the problem, Josue, is the area he thrived in.
They couldn't even get layups to fall, guys. Jared Allen struck fear in so many Celtics players. How many layups did Javonte Green miss, or Pritchard, or other guys?
Josue, the problem with him is that, and this is why I had some doubts about him out of the draft, is that area he thrived in college, that 12-foot range.
We talking about?
Talking about Grant.
My problems with him is that he's undersized and he's undersized and slow. Like,
he was an elite post-up player in college, and that's just not available to him in the NBA.
But this is another
but we
level.
had to know that. Yeah, exactly. Of course.
He's undersized and unathletic. I mean,
yeah,
He was great in college too.
You don't think he could be a poor man's Draymond Green?
No,
I do.
Very poor. Very poor.
We'll see. It'll take time. It'll take time. He's going to have to. What I'm saying, Josue, is that what he did before isn't what he'll be great with now. Like, he's got to be able to adjust and change his game and grow in a different way. Face up, maybe beating guys off the dribble.
Guys, if we're talking about the need for Grant Williams to develop as a key to this Celtics team,
well, it's just one among many.
We said
this at the beginning of the year.
Who else are we talking about here? Teague? Outside of Teague, who
so there's no more Teague apology anymore.
Listen,
it's very interesting that Pritchard passed Teague on the depth chart in a game.
There's a reason I didn't apologize to you guys.
Well, remember that, because you're gonna have to apologize for this.
How about Semi? Semi looked great.
I'll apologize for Semi. No, I won't. I don't got
it. It's way too soon for that.
Way too soon.
Listen, John, what John's
at least he's not scared of Jared Allen like everyone else was. Jeez.
What John's saying about what you guys are saying about Grant is what we've been saying all offseason, is that like the depth of this team, the bench, the young guys aren't there yet. You can't have it both ways. You can't have a team that wants to compete for a championship and also have a team that needs to develop a bunch of players all at once on the court and still expect to win those games. Like Rob Williams, like Grant, like Romeo, like Neesmith. You need to develop all these guys. These guys aren't really ready to contribute. The only way to get them ready is for them to play, but you're also trying to win and end up as the top seed. And, you have championship aspirations. So how are you, I'll use the word quote unquote balance. How are you going to balance all these things? It's very difficult to do that.
Here's how you're going to do it. You're going to, as games go on, I don't know whether we'll do this or not, but the schedule's tight. There's back-to-backs everywhere. As games go on, you could see situations where you sit Tatum and Brown, kind of punt on a game altogether, load management, and you just start Neesmith, and somebody else, and say, go shoot 15, 20 times. I don't care. We've punted on this game. There might be a game or two like that. You might get some sort of crash course development there with those guys. Otherwise,
we lost by 20.
You wait for them to earn minutes. He played like Pritchard is earning minutes. You got to see something from Neesmith, whether it's in practice or in a game. He earns minutes, but you're right. You got to give him some rope. Like, to me, again, you can survive with Semi and you got some decent things, but again, we're throwing Javonte Green in there, and I don't know what that's doing. I know they needed a little energy boost there, but at some point or another, those minutes, that time's got to go to Romeo and to Neesmith before the end of the year, if those guys are going to do anything for you.
I agree with that. But in the meantime, I don't have a problem with seeing Javonte. I want to see more Javonte. You know, that athleticism, that energy, that keep this offense going. When it gets stagnant, it gets really scary with the Celtics, especially in that second unit, especially if Tatum or one of those guys, Tatum or Brown, isn't on the floor with them.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's tough for the Celtics right now without both Tatum and Brown on the court at the same time. I mean, I know that they showed out, they played well, stepped up against the Bucks, and that's great. But today kind of brings you back down to earth a little bit. I mean, you don't want to get too high after the win against the Bucks. You probably don't want to get too low after a loss against the Nets. It's probably somewhere in between those two is where this
That's a
team
great
is at.
point, Jimmy.
And like that's kind of where I am with these guys. I mean, they're about to play. Is it 2 in Indy or with Indy?
Back to back. It's the Miles Turner showcase.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see that because I actually think
that's going to be a ton of fun because we're just going to be like,
that's exactly what it is.
I really hope for a Bobby apology cam by the end of that second game.
I'm going to tell you when we come out of that game, we're going to be saying. So here's my prediction that I'll apologize for after those 2 games. I think we're going to unequivocally come out of those 2 games and say I think I would have rather had Turner than Thompson.
Well, I hope.
That's my opinion. And it's not because we don't like Thompson. It's just that's who he is. Great energy guy. You see what he can do. But every single time he tried to score, like on purpose, it didn't go well, like where he tried to put a move on or do something. He's just
like when he does that putback, when he plants both of his feet, is okay, now he wants to score. Yeah, that's it.
What are we drinking tonight, boys?
I'm on a margarita right now, actually. I've moved to the margarita portion of the night. I started with mimosas, slowly transitioned to margaritas, and the way the Celtics game went, I kept pouring them. So
yeah,
you had garbage time though. Take some extra sips,
Bobby.
Yeah,
what do you got?
I actually missed the last couple of minutes just pouring another one before the show. I was like, I'm not going to miss anything that I want to see here, so I'm out on this game.
I've gone white. I'm in the White Russian portion of the night.
And as I predicted after our Celtics Bucks game, it was good that my little cousins weren't around because I did say some mean things to the television screen that I wouldn't want them to hear.
Called it, didn't you?
I did. Threw a few things, threw a few gifts at the tree, but we're moving on. It's 1 of 72. Just one.
Jimmy,
game.
for once, I love your take.
You're moving on, but it is sobering, because it's like
for sure.
They hung in there for a half, and it was like, okay, I guess our preseason fears were unfounded. Then in the third quarter, when they can't score and KD's like, oh, wait a second, I'm really good at basketball, things got really ugly there.
So let me put this in some context. I'm getting killed on Twitter for saying the Celtics window's closed this year and the Nets are unstoppable. If you're Boston, you can't stop the fact that Kyrie Irving and KD want to go to Brooklyn, and they got the benefit of the doubt of that, and it looks like they've built a super team out of that. So all you can kind of do is handle yourself in this situation. It looks like you're a little bit over the Bucks if you play like that against them, and you can feasibly beat anyone else playing at your best. But for right now, unless Brooklyn sustains an injury, it feels like them, and we'll see how everybody else looks against them, but it's just Brooklyn at the top of that conference. So you don't have to feel too bad if you're Boston coming out of this that you don't stack up against them. We've seen 3 teams, unfortunately Boston being 2 of those teams, just blown away by this squad, and Kyrie and KD able to get whatever they want, but Brooklyn
Kyrie
also able to
37 friggin' points on there.
And it's not even that. These other guys get perfect shots. The way that Kyrie and KD draw the offense up with that high screen action like this. Am I crazy, guys? Because the way people are coming at me on Twitter, I feel like I'm losing my mind right now. But this is one of the best teams I've ever seen.
I think
Well,
it's my
that's a
fault
little
because
much.
Yeah, that's a little much. That's a crazy. Yeah,
Let's rein it in a little bit there. We're only 2 games in. I mean, listen.
I'm just saying, 1-11, they're insane.
Well, Kyrie, the way Kyrie's playing, I mean, to start the year, I mean, sure, they could rip off 20 straight wins, right, with him and Durant, as long as they stay healthy. I'm not willing to say they're one of the best teams of all time. I need to see a little bit more from the supporting cast. But listen, they're the real deal. I mean, it was I think Celtics fans' biggest fear going into this is that Kevin Durant would kind of pick up right where he left off, and there wouldn't be any sort of running up to comfortability.
That's what we said after the first game was like, oh boy, that was wrong. Like, again,
Yeah.
no, I mean, like we said, the amount of people who come back from Achilles injuries in the history of the NBA and are the same or better is zero. And Kevin Durant, we looked at it tonight. He does look a tad slow on D, but that could be conditioning. That could be the fact that just Jaylen is much, much, much faster than he is at this point in his career, and he's able to get around him. But, there were a couple times Jaylen had him on a string or went around him, got him up
Jaylen
in
had
the
a
air.
good game.
Yeah. So he played a good game, but Durant he's the same friggin' guy. He just scores at will. It's just nothing you can do there.
Yeah.
So again, we talked about this after the first game. I've seen this battle on Twitter a little bit. If you're a Jason Tatum guy, which everybody is, you're a Jason Tatum guy, meaning you believe he's going to be a top 5, 6, 7 NBA player, which is where Kevin Durant currently is. And again, we talk about this enormous gulf between these two guys when they're head to head. Okay. Tatum doesn't do any of the things that Durant does or that you want him to do in a game. Like, he didn't do any of the things that Durant did. Not that he doesn't. We've seen him do it, and we've seen him take it.
I still think I'm with Jimmy that's unfair to hold him to that standard. But
that is the standard.
People put him there.
The thing is, you can sit there and be a Tatum guy and say he's the best player, and he's already top 10 or he's knocking on the door, but you can't also say it's not fair to compare him to Durant. He's either getting there or he's not.
There's a big gap between. Or
he's either
11
getting
and 1.
close to there or he's not.
Well, what it shows is that gap between 11 and 1. Durant could feasibly be the best player in the league this year.
Yeah,
and Tatum's 11, which is what Jokic, Joel Embiid, these guys who are great, phenomenal franchise leaders, players anyone would want to start their franchise with, but haven't pushed them to the NBA Finals yet, haven't gotten past that hump. And that's what we see with Tatum. Like, Durant has honed himself over years and years and years to be able to shoot over anybody in that pull-up 2.
I know, but we got to get back to Tatum here. He has to be able to get buckets at will. He has to be.
But
he has to be able to get his shot off. He has to recognize double teams. He has to recognize when he can be aggressive. He has to get to the hole. He can't sometimes do it, sometimes not. He has to just be a scorer all the time. Jimmy, who are you texting here, buddy?
For this team,
I actually literally just tweeted out our link since nobody else did it that I could find on our YouTube link. So I wanted to make sure the good people who aren't watching right now could see it.
Gotcha.
So I had to do that.
Yeah.
And I actually think it was
I hear what you're saying. You're talking more about his approach, but I just think the whole Durant's one of the greatest scorers of all time. Like, this isn't, I get what you're saying though, and my only concern is if Brad Stevens is just not being aggressive enough or setting him up in a way to get going right away. Because I'm with you. I thought that was a pattern that was exclusive for the bubble. I didn't know that was going to carry over into this year. I don't know what's with the slow starts and not getting to the free throw lines. But it has to change, and especially in that first quarter. I mean, that's what stars do, right, guys? Whether we're talking top 10, wherever you guys have them at, you get to the free throw line. You don't let someone come off the bench and get 7 free throws before you can even get there. Someone like Shemi Ojeleye, it's just I don't get it. And again, I don't know if that's something that falls on Brad Stevens or is it something that Tatum just sort of wakes up by the second quarter and then gets going. But there's those slow starts. There's something to it. This is a pattern now.
Yeah. And again, what's going to happen is there's a child.
Come on in. Yeah, come on in.
That was a nice touch. John's got a
tree.
wall over there preventing entry.
Listen, that's what we said about
it's
Tatum.
actually gated. Yeah.
He's got to get into a groove. And a lot of players do that at the free throw line. So if you go 3 quarters without getting to the free throw line, you saw him tonight, 20 points. It says right there. I mean, you need more. This team isn't deep enough. I'm a broken record, but you need at least 25, closer to 30
so
from Tatum on a lot of nights. And that's the difference is going to the free throw line to make up for those extra 5-10 points, right?
And they were coming out. They were blitzing him a little bit, and
those blitzes were nice.
Yeah, and so it wasn't easy on him, for him to get going. But again,
last thing I'll say on that is that you do start to see the story of this team being guys who were in different roles last year, forced to step up to the next level and trying to get into the comfort of that. Like Smart, even if we're talking about new roles. There's a little bit of awkwardness in his new role, I feel like, too. He's trying to take that step back, but you're not getting that explosiveness that you would get from him in a game like this. for all we bemoan his shot selection and aggressiveness, there were nights where his aggressiveness rode you above the level you were on. And the Toronto series last year was the story of that. I feel like he's been a little too subtle so far. Like when he shot tonight, it looked good. He just, again, comes out with 4-12, just kind of like a mediocre night.
Yeah. So what are we saying now? We want Marcus to shoot more?
I just think be careful what you ask for in that sense. Like he and Brad has said this before too. His aggressiveness, his assertiveness rises you above the level you're on some nights, and it's allowed him to be your best or second best player other nights. So it's just a minor point, but overall it feels like everybody's still getting adjusted to those new levels. And Josue, you make a good point. Jaylen looks most comfortable of anybody stepping into that new role, so that's a positive you can pull out of this. 9
attempts from Jaylen. I'm gonna keep going with this free throw thing. 9 attempts. I mean, that's a guy who just wouldn't be denied to the. It's just that sort of aggressive approach, getting to the rim, keep going, doing it again and again and again.
I love that.
And he's feeling the defense. It is a case of Jaylen, which is so interesting because again, the early struggles in his career were always kind of like he decided what he was going to do before he started going, and he would just go. But I mean, that case, particularly against Durant, that time where he went, got him up in the air, it slowed it down, and then banked it home. He's feeling the defense out when he's going to the basket. It's not that out of control, wild, I'm going to jump in the air and see what happens.
Drive you crazy. Yeah, right. Exactly. And you know what else?
He doesn't do that at all. But Tatum actually looks more lost going to the basket than you see him falling down, not really sure where he's, a couple of times. So it's funny that Jaylen is the guy right now who's really like taking it with confidence there.
Right. And Jaylen's also impressed me with his facilitating, setting guys up. I think that's something that could.
Him and Marcus have a nice little thing going.
Maybe that's what Tatum needs, a little high-low action, get him in there, that those two need to play off each other more often, I think. And I think that's something Brad's going to start seeing is the next move within the next week or so.
2 games in a row.
In the end, it's going to be a good test.
Jaylen, 2 games in a row, high scorer, and clearly the best player on the floor for the Celtics. Yeah, and it's clearly. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying this is happening, but what I don't want to see happen is I don't want Tatum to fall in love with like just the outside shot. I don't want him to become a shot chucker. I want him to stay aggressive, be aggressive, drive. He needs to get himself going. Jaylen Brown, I don't feel that's part of his game. Even though like he'll park himself on the corner and take these, that's fine. You need to do that, but like he's not scared to get aggressive, drive to the hoop. Whereas I think Tatum's more inclined to, penetrate, step back, fall away 3, where he's almost like. And we saw it, he hit a couple of those obviously against the Bucks. He had a great one tonight, a deep 3. I think it was over Kyrie. That was a really nice one at the shot clock. But still, you want to see him get going, get full steam ahead. I mean, the guy puts on 10 pounds of muscle and grows 2 inches. Like use that, man. Like use what you got, man.
Yeah, the difference between the two right now, and Tatum does get more pressure. John mentioned the doubles. He's getting the better defender of the two, so all that matters. Yeah. But what Tatum needs to be able to do, 2 assists tonight, use that pick and roll, use his facilitating role,
recognize it,
the guys up, and not just if you're doubled, if you're getting stuck, dish it out, but identify and find teammates and empower teammates, make teammates better with the pressure that you're getting. That's a high level role. That's what Durant does. That's what LeBron does. But as John mentioned, if you're holding him up to that standard, that's that next step.
That's all I'm saying. It is ridiculous to compare him to 2 of the best players who've ever played ever and will ever play. That's not the point. The point is this team only becomes a championship level team if he reaches that level. And if he doesn't, then you have a really, 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 really good player, but not enough to get you to that next level. That's the fact. He either, like I said, we talked about those ESPN rankings, which are totally imperfect. But the point being, if these guys are roughly the 11th and the 25th or 30th best players in the NBA this season, if they make that leap and they become 6 and 12, all of a sudden you do have one of the best tandems in basketball right now.
And let's make it clear, we're not saying
otherwise they're kind of in an also ran sort of category, which is very, very, very good. You want to have them. They're young. They can continue to grow. There's not very many two-person tandems you would trade these guys for,
Yeah.
but they have to get to that level for you guys for the Celtics to be
and let's make it clear, we're not saying like he can't get there. They'll
They
never
both
get there.
can,
It's just identifying what they need to do.
right. Yeah.
Right, and I think that goes back to what we're saying. Like, are you trying to win now, or are you trying to win? Are you trying to develop guys and win? And build something to really be that team, because they're good. It's a frustrating situation. It's a frustrating position to throw in, because they're just good enough to hook you in and to make you feel like, okay, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they might come up short. And you know what I mean? It's like, is that a knock on them, or are they just a couple years away?
It's just yeah.
We're comparing them to. No, it's fine. We're comparing them to Kyrie and Durant, but like. Durant's 32. Kyrie's, however old he is. Like, these guys have so much time to get to that point and be in the position that those two guys are in now, where it's like, we obviously want it to happen right now, but we also have to understand that, like, there's a lot of room to grow and for them to get better and become that level of player. So I don't know.
It's a tough spot in their development too, to basically take the two superstars away in Hayward and then have Kemba not start and put that much more pressure on them here. Again, they could be exactly at the level they're at this year with more support and a deeper bench, and then it's fine. It's just now they have nobody. They do not have enough around them to be able to lean on anybody else. It's on them every single night to be 30 and 30, 25 and 25 every night. I mean, and again, they got theirs. I mean, 47 combined points tonight. Tatum wasn't super efficient. He didn't get to the line, but every single night, those guys have to be alphas.
Yeah. And it may or may not catch up to them at some point in the season. If you don't have Kemba coming back and giving you something, if you don't have Smart contributing, if Teague can't give you some instant offense here and there, and if any of these young guys don't sort of step up into some sort of complementary role, not asking them to give you 20 points a night, but I mean, a guy like Tyce Thompson, for example, those guys you should be able to rely on double-digit points. And then somebody has to step up, whether it's Romeo when he comes back, whether it seems like Pritchard has, a lot of Brad Stevens' confidence. Somebody has to sort of fill the gaps there. And if they don't, then you get a score like you do tonight.
Yeah. So we did say we're gonna keep it short. It's Christmas. Everybody, we've got
the Grinch stole Christmas tonight. The Grinch stole Christmas.
Yeah,
we've got families. We've got stuff to do. Everyone's going to be with theirs, so we're going to cut it short. It isn't. So we now have these tale of two games, which is fine. Milwaukee was a surprising win, and this was a very disappointing loss. But the back-to-back with Indiana is very interesting because, again, if you're going to look and say Brooklyn's clearly the cream of the crop, and it might be Brooklyn and Miami with that next tier coming in, we'll see where the Celtics fall there. Indiana's kind of more in that like 5-6 range, and so you go head-to-head with them twice in a row, you're going to have an idea where you stand today against those teams. And again, it's early in the season, but you do have back-to-back games where you're going to stack up against a team that's kind of right now the NBA's middle class. So
I would say
the Eastern Conference kind of middle class playoff caliber team. And if they come away from those 2 L's, 2 W's, you might have a different vibe for this team. So that's going to tell you a little bit about them. You got Sunday and then coming back on Tuesday. So I am super interested to see it. I am super interested to see Miles Turner versus Tristan. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Tristan Thompson, man. This is the showdown.
Yeah.
Bobby is going to be on his knees praying that Thompson can have an effective game or two against Miles Turner.
Josue, what are you wearing today?
Legends. I got the red Hawthorne hoodie this time.
Seriously, how many do you have?
He just has boxes and boxes.
I think he just wears the same one.
Yeah.
No, I got I just like shut up, Jimmy. It's just a filter. I'm just changing the color every single time.
Yeah.
No, this is the red one, red Hawthorne. This is my favorite one. The white one's good, but
that's a sharp color for you.
The white one you can't wear every day because then it won't stay white. So
yeah. So there it is. That's the Hawthorne. It's Legends apparel, athletic apparel. It's already priced well. Plus, you get 20% off your next purchase with the code HORFORD20. That's legendsbrand.com/Horford. Use the code HORFORD20. 20% off your next purchase. Still worth it. Great deal. Running through the holidays. Get it while you can. Super comfy stuff. It's literally all that Josue wears. It's actually.
It's great stuff, man. Also, they have I believe the sale's still going on through the weekend. I believe it was a Christmas sale they have going on the site. So that's even more discount there with the 20% off.
Some people get money for Christmas, spend it over there.
Yep. There's
That's
get
right,
your
get
Hawthorne. So
money.
that's it for us, guys. Let's wrap it up. Any final thoughts here before we move on?
So Jimmy mentioned Thompson. Thompson kind of disappointed me out of the opening stretch tonight. A little too much isolation, touch a bit off. He could have set a tone earlier there on some of his offensive rebounds and loose balls he scooped up that they kind of botched. And overall, the finishing isn't great with this team right now. That goes for Tatum. That goes for some of the other players. And
we didn't even get into layups. Jesus.
Yeah, that's a huge area.
It was so frustrating because, again, look, I know Jared Allen is on the up and up, but geez, I mean, the way he struck fear in the Celtics, it was a bit surprising. It was
at
least Shemi showed me he wasn't scared. That's good. That's a good sign.
That play where Tatum botched the layup and Brown got it back and botched it right after him, like the game just completely fell apart after that.
I've been giving Javonte, telling him, man, I would like to see him get more minutes. He comes in and bums 2 back-to-back layups.
Bunnies, dude.
My dad was like, Javonte, huh? This your guy? I'm turning my dad. I'm like, yo, watch this guy. He's about to go off right now. 2 layups.
And there's the problem with T. One night he's blowing you away, and the next night he's a 0. Like that, the reliability with him isn't there at this age.
Was a 0.
He's good for 14 points. That's what that means. That means he'll drop 19 one night, and then he'll go scoreless or drop 5.
That was tough.
That's where he started averaging around 14, 15 points.
You definitely need him to be more. I mean, I'm not gonna say he's inconsistent. We're 2 games in, but you can't go goose egg coming off the bench.
I wouldn't call him inconsistent.
That's a guy that you really need to stabilize that bench unit.
Unbelievable. So. Pritchard, 25 minutes, the high off the bench. Surprising. Again, pretty efficient. We talked about those pull-up threes in transition, maybe do without, but again, he played with confidence. I thought he played pretty good defense.
And Semi is in the rotation. No one got more grief from this comment section from CLNS's viewership than Semi Ojeleye. Credit to him for sticking it to them tonight.
Semi Ojeleye was 2 for 7 tonight. Okay, like Semi, and he played 14 minutes. He was fine.
He's in the rotation
at most.
He got to the free throw line. I'll give him that. I'll always give him that. He got to the free throw.
That says more about your rotation than it does Shemi.
I know.
Good for him. I hope that he can,
We're not at the point where we're celebrating Semi Ojeleye's accomplishments.
Bobby, you know what?
For not puking all over himself when he's out there. He's fine. I mean, he was.
You know what I think it is?
Okay.
I got to talk to Shemi about hip hop a lot last season. And he didn't know about a lot of the Kid Cudi music because he was into the Kids See Ghosts. It's an album he made with Kanye, and I was like, yo, you should check out the Cudi. So he did. He checked it out. And he was like, man, that's really good. Cudi just dropped a new album last week. I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence, but Bobby, sometimes I think he's really into this album. It's just
you think he's grooving to the album?
Josue and I did an episode on it. Yep.
Yeah. He had never heard Kid Cudi like that. I told him to listen to Kids See Ghosts. He loved it. So I think he's.
I don't want to. We've already spent more time talking about Semi Ojeleye.
I'm kind of up the Semi segment, John.
And we should all season long.
We're gonna get a Semi segment. You know it. It's coming. It's gonna.
But I'm gonna say this. I don't get it. Like, this is a guy. Did you guys watch him in college?
Yep.
He was super athletic, and he could finish. He was a power. He could throw down. He can barely get over the rim now. I don't understand it. Every time he goes to the basket, there's guys in his face and he can't get up and over them. He went to dunk today and the rim's here and his hand's just there. Like, where did that go? I don't understand it. Like,
I actually like the dunk tonight. It was through a couple of guys, and that's the difference.
I swear he's either something he's doing that's neutralizing his athleticism, or it's left his body. He's more athletic than that. He should be more of a presence physically.
I think he needs TB12 center. I think he needs a little bit more pliability, a little bit of stretch, some band work, because the strength is there. But if his stretching isn't quite there, then maybe he can't rotate the arm as high.
This is the most strength and conditioning talk we've ever had on the show.
I think he needs to get in touch with TB12.
Yeah, we said we were wrapping it, and we will. I want to say thanks to everybody at home for tuning in. It's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
And
thank you for spending it with us.
Thank you for spending it with us
today.
I got a tweet from someone. I forget the name. Sorry if I'm forgetting, but he's like, "You guys still going on tonight, right?" I was like, "Absolutely, right after the game." So I appreciated that. Him asking to double check with me. I'm like, "Yeah, get your eggnog ready. We're doing it."
John, you got any good questions? We got any good questions?
Cheers to all of you guys. Everyone wants Brad fired, I think.
Yeah, and we're still soft on Danny. I mean, there's just a meltdown in the comments.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas,
Hey, it'll get better.
Trade Smart, Williams, and Kemba.
The schedule ahead is an opportunity to rack up some wins here. The Celtics are better than a lot of these teams coming up, so it softens up just a little bit. Brooklyn is a stunning revelation for a lot of teams out there that thought they could contend, I'd say. So we'll keep an eye on them. I think they could rip off a dozen plus wins to start this year and make a statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, I think after the Pacers, it definitely eases up a bit. You got Memphis.
You got Detroit in there.
You know, that's 2 Detroit games. Those are winnable games. You know, it's not going to be easy, though, because I think these back-to-backs, I think it's easy to assume that even if it's a lesser team, that the Celtics could go in there and get 2 wins real quick. But it's hard. You know, you guys know how often do the Celtics or most teams that you see them split those games, because it's just what happens when you've seen a team 2 days before and you play them again.
So, you know what? Jimmy, I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
I think 51 in a normal schedule was the over-under for this team this year. A couple games in, you got them over, you got them under that.
51 and in
a regular
21?
season. 51 and
51 and 21?
That would be 50. We're not good with math here. 51 and 31, that would be.
The reason why we're all writers.
No, they got 72 games, right?
No, I'm saying it was the equivalent of 51 wins in a normal season. Yeah.
I love this comment.
Doesn't make any sense.
Welcome to the first show. 51.
44. 44 is the number for 72. Someone just commented it.
44. That's 44, 54. That's pretty fair. I mean, it's pretty fair. I think it depends on when Kemba comes back. It'll be lower if it's mid-February to March when Kemba comes back, that's probably lower. Or if it's March. I mean, it honestly might even be March before he comes back. So
let me ask you, let me throw one thing out here. This comment makes me think about it. When we talk about Tatum, it's always hard to put your finger on Tatum and what it is you see on these games where you're like, he just doesn't have it. And this comment makes me think about it, and it kind of articulates it. It does look at times that the game is effortful for him, and sometimes it's effortless. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, there are times where it comes and flows easy, and you're like, oh, man, it's just coursing through his veins. And there's others where it just looks like he's struggling to do almost everything, you know? And that's what this felt like tonight. And again, maybe credit to the Nets for some of what they were doing on him, but sometimes it does look like he's trying really hard and it's not working.
Yeah, that's why I think this road trip maybe after Indiana I think the Indiana is going to be a great test because of the matchup reasons. You know, I think TJ Warren, their wings, you know, Sabonis, this guys that's a really tough matchup for the Celtics front court. And I think it's a great test to see Tatum bounce back. I do think there's a lot to them playing Brooklyn, though. I just think defensively they really know how to defend Tatum. They did an incredible job, John. I know I gave them a lot of grief for that free throw line.
That's what he said. They made it hard for him.
He wasn't as aggressive. There are times where he shies away. He starts going for the threes, those step backs, and some of them look incredible. One of them went right over Durant, and you know, when that goes in, it's great. But when they're not, he has to figure out other ways to be productive scoring wise because the team needs it.
And that guy looped in Brown. I don't have big problems with how Brown's playing right. He's averaging 30 games. I think we are seeing that Brown's ready to take a leap here. Tatum, he's in a tougher position. When you're that top guy, the amount of pressure above being the 2 guy as Brown is indescribable. It's just a massive leap between 1 and 2. But I wouldn't include Brown in the guys who are looking uncomfortable out there. In fact, John was saying this during the game too, his mobility, the patience, the ball control, even as Josue mentioned during the show, the pick and roll ability, passing, 3 assists tonight. That's solid for him. He was looking outstanding to start this year. If there's anyone I don't have questions about coming in and going forward, it's Brown.
Yeah, I'm with Bobby on that. I think so. I guess I don't have a good answer for that question. It's a great question. I would say that I'm not sure if Tatum is playing like comfortable in his own body, and I'm not sure if he's fully grown into himself yet. I don't think, and we already talked about the aggressiveness, and I don't think he's as aggressive as he could be at 6'10" and whatever. And Brown, I think Brown is like very comfortable with his, size, weight, and with his game
He
where
doesn't
he
look quick
plays.
right now.
He doesn't look quick, and I fear that if Tatum falls too in love with the shot, with the step back, with the fadeaway, where he might be looking like he's struggling out there going into the fourth quarter with 14 points or whatever it is. That's my answer to that question. I do want to mention one more thing, unless you guys have something different than that, unless you guys have something else to say.
Nope. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, this came out yesterday. I mean, Harden, or the Celtics are on Harden's list. We have to at least talk about that for a second because a lot of comments are saying trade for Harden, trade for Harden. I am still anti-trade for Harden. If I'm the Celtics, I think it would obviously cost Jaylen Brown. Well, I don't even know if I should say obviously. I don't know what the market is for Harden at this point, but I would imagine Jaylen Brown would have to be included in that, and I just wouldn't want to make that deal. I wouldn't want to bring in
a
Harden.
third team. Yeah.
But even if you pull in a third team, the Celtics have nothing to give anybody.
Well,
except for a trade exception and Marcus Smart, and that's not going to be enough.
You would need.
You're not going to get Smart for that. You're not going to get Harden for that.
The difficult thing would be finding a team that sees value in acquiring a Kemba Walker, which there probably are some teams out there that would value adding an all-star caliber player like that, despite the injury.
Not at this point, though. Not at this point.
I think
there's so many unknowns with that. You have to see him play first.
Yeah, it's difficult. The number of teams that would be able to give assets with Boston and Houston to entice them to do that and acquire a Kemba with all those years and all that money and injury concerns left doesn't make sense. So this is perhaps a leverage move by Harden, trying to get them into the conversation, knowing that if Boston put the right offer down, they could acquire him. But again, the one-to-one deal makes no sense to me. You can't throw away your whole team and just say Tatum and Harden, roll the balls out there and just figure it out. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, agreed.
And I can't think of.
I want to see this thing through. I want to see what Tatum and Brown look at the end of what this team will look like when the regular season is finally over. They're not going to look like this. We knew it was going to be a slow start. We knew that it's going to take some time. For someone like Danny Ainge, who literally hasn't been able to like talk about getting curveballs after curveballs. I mean, you finally go out, you get the big free agent that everyone's always knocking you for, right? You get Al Horford. You go out, you salvage, Isaiah Thomas by bringing in Kyrie Irving. Gordon Hayward, your big free agent, goes down 5 minutes into his time in Boston. And now he's gone. Kyrie's gone. And then he replaces him with Kemba Walker, and now he's out of the mix. So for the first time, it's like, wait a minute. Well, maybe I can just see this thing through because you know what? In the past, I haven't done anything, and besides the Isaiah Thomas thing that forced him to think that okay, I need to make a trade. He hasn't panicked yet. He hasn't. And yeah, of course, it's easy to not panic when you're thinking, okay, well, Gordon's going to eventually come back or Kyrie's going to eventually come back. But he never pulled the trigger on a deal, and he could have easily tried to, or maybe not easily, but he could have tried to bring in some more talent, but he didn't. So I think Danny's going to continue to say, you know what, let me just see this thing through. Obviously, before the trade deadline, you have to start figuring out what you're going to do with that TPE. But outside of that, I say bring in a couple of pieces and don't go and sell the entire farm just to bring in James Harden, to bring in the big fish.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know what it is. You assume it's Jaylen. So what are you going to do?
It
doesn't make sense.
It's not going to happen without Jaylen. So if it's not. If Jaylen is the only way it gets done, then forget it. Just move on, get a couple pieces from that TPE, try to add some depth to the bench, and hope that Kemba is going to be good to go. And if not, you got what you got, and you have to try to make a push to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I want to emphasize
and shock the world, shock everybody.
I want to emphasize this too. All the stuff we said about Harden for weeks now is valid. Why would you want to get into that? Why would you want to undermine your front office and everything else he's done in his years there? And the despicable way he's carried himself the last few weeks, that undermines it too. If we're talking about a stable star, it's a different story. I don't think you can you turn your nose to talent, but there's talent that undermines. And we saw that in 2019. And now that they finally fixed that part of this team, you're not going to go back the other way just for talent. It's probably a lesson learned to some degree there on Ainge's end. But, Jaylen said it tonight. This year is going to be a process. You can the coaches want to stay. We can look at last year and say that was the sixth window. It was open then, and they didn't make the necessary moves with the picks or other assets to enhance that team's ability to win it all. And they may not be in the same exact position this year. But a lot of that stuff's in the past, and we can only look at what they have right now.
Yep. All right, guys, like we said, we're trying to wrap it, so we're going to say Merry Christmas and good night to everybody. The
You
Harden
mean it this
debate will
time.
continue because he's not going anywhere. He's not being suspended. He's going to
He's not
probably
even
play.
playing.
He's going to play soon. So
Not too soon.
he's self-isolating. I think he's going to play in the next game. But anyway,
He'll
doesn't
play in the
matter.
opener.
That conversation's not going anywhere. Celtics, again, will 2 games in, kind of a mixed bag. Couple games coming up. We'll be
Some
back on
hope.
Sunday
Hey,
night.
let's not throw what happened on opening night out the window. There was some hope there.
I know, but it's so hard to say goodbye. So we're just going to have to do it, okay?
But wait, we are gonna be back for one of the Pacers games or both or what?
The plan is here every night, whether it's
The
this
next
whole
game
crew,
is Sunday night.
mix and match, series of parts, 30 minutes, 45. We went an hour 20 last time, but it was the opener. In some form or another, we will be back. So tune in, subscribe to our YouTube channels, both this, depending which one you're on right now, but the main channel and our Celtics exclusive channel for this stuff, Garden Report cut-ups, press conferences, all of our Celtics podcasts, which include multiple people who you see on the screen here. Bobby Manning with Dome Theory, Josue Pavon with Causeway Street. We've got Jeff Goodman and Bob Ryan. We've got Asherrod Blakely with the A-List. We've got Cedric Maxwell. We're loaded with heavy hitters covering the Celtics. We'll be back with Garden Reports throughout the season, post-game reports live. For Josue Pavon, Jimmy Toscano, Bobby Manning. Good night, everybody. Merry Christmas. Thank you for watching.
Merry
and we will
Christmas.
see you
Thanks,
guys
everybody. Happy
on Sunday.
holidays.
Happy holidays.